So welcome everybody to what I think is our fourth or fifth one of these live Q&A sessions that have come about quite quickly in response to the COVID-19 situation that we are all facing in different ways. For those of you who haven't joined any of these previously or seen our emails, the team at OTM came up with an idea several weeks ago to try and help our clients and community. We've opened up a virtual helpline for marketers and communicators and business owners to send through questions, and we're all contributing a little bit of time each day and each week to get good answers back to you. Where we don't know the answers, we're tapping into our great network of specialists through clients and different community members. So we're starting to get a bit of traction with that. There's been lots of questions come through this week, several of which we hope to address in today's conversation. So let's introduce our panelists this week. I'm very pleased, and I will keep looking down at my notes because we've got several questions to get through today, and we have got three people on the line with us who have very impressive backgrounds. So I want to make sure I don't miss any of it. I should have introduced myself. I'm Amy Ward from OTM. On the line with us today, we have Emily Anderson, who has recently joined the RBWH Foundation. What a year to join, Emily. Emily's the Director of Communications and Engagement for the RBWH Foundation, and amongst many other things, I can imagine at the moment the focus is on the Coronavirus Action Fund, which I'm sure people will have a lot of interest and questions about today. So thank you, Emily, for joining us. We also have Kelly Chapman. Kelly is, and I am going to read this because I want to make sure I get the title right, Senior Digital Marketing Manager, recently appointed as well, in the Department of State Development, Manufacturing, Infrastructure and Planning. That's a
well done, Amy.
And thank you. And a big portfolio. So Kelly has a focus on digital marketing in this role, has previously worked in technology companies and innovation spaces, has an interest in taking an agile approach to things, and I can only imagine that's really coming to the fore in the environment that we're finding ourselves in now. So thank you, Kelly, for joining us. And last but definitely not least, we have Flo Lemens. Flo is the social media coordinator for Queensland University of Technology. Flo is a real champion for digital marketing, content marketing, social media, and has been doing this for several years with QUT and with his own brand. He's well recognised in the industry, particularly for your thought leadership in social media marketing and digital marketing. So we're very lucky to have you in the conversation with us as well, Flo. Before I turn over to questions with the panel, we thought we'd set the scene today. We'd really like to take the perspective of a positive perspective. There's a lot of challenging news out there, a lot of challenges that we've all been facing in our roles and in our personal lives, I can imagine, over the last several weeks, a couple of months even in Australia. And we're looking to try and help people find the opportunities or the perspectives for how they could be approaching things in a positive way at the moment in the face of all of the change that we are seeing. So that is a theme that we would like to pepper throughout today's conversation. We will talk about the challenges that we're facing, but from the point of view of how can we overcome that? How can we help each other with tips and tricks and insights and strategies? You know, an example of something that's happening in a big organisation could be find something useful in that for a sole operator or for an independent consultant, and vice versa. So we're looking to provide options for everybody who's joined today. And I can see actually we do now have quite a full cohort of people that have joined us. So I'd like to start, you all three have such interesting stories at the moment. but I think I'm going to put you on the spot to start with, Kelly. You've only been now in this role with Department of State Development for, I think, a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, 2.
2 weeks. So I can only imagine it's been a baptism of fire. I think it would be really nice if you could share with us some of the things that you've been doing with the team, with your, is it the Made it Queensland campaign? That's
Making it for Queensland, yeah.
Making it for Queensland. Be great to hear about that campaign, and also what you've been doing as a team to work in these conditions.
Yeah, so there's probably 2 really interesting streams that have been happening in the department. And just for everyone's knowledge, the Department of State Development, and I'm not going to say the whole big name, they call it DSMIF internally. It's really focused on, I guess, the Queensland economy, and it's going to be the department that is really focused on the economic recovery coming out of this. So there's a really, really fascinating and challenging brief there to be taking on. And with the Making It for Queensland, they just wanted to react really quickly to the fact that we had, you know, I mean, it's unprecedented. The borders had closed, supply chains had stopped, you know, everyone was downing tools, and they really saw, and I guess this is where government gets to really shine, because they have that really amazing role to play in these times to offer help and assistance. So they wanted to showcase, so what Making It for Queensland is about is really celebrating what Queensland manufacturing has done to respond to this pandemic, which is stop distilling gin and start making hand sanitizer. And what's another great example? You know, I'm now having a major blank, but there's so many cool stories that where they've changed what they were doing and what they're creating to respond to this crisis, and also really start to go, so we've been helping industry go, we've got a gap here, and then helping match them up with another supply chain somewhere else to try and not get those, particularly like when it comes to stocking supermarket shelves, particularly out in the regional areas. It's just been such critical work. So Making It for Queensland was to really shine a light on how Queensland manufacturing is responding, which they really have done with innovation and with really fast, quick thinking actions. So it's just been unreal to see that response. And it's all about, at the moment, it's just shining a light on those activities. But they really want to turn that to back to BAU, which is about making a better Queensland and helping diversify the economy and create new jobs that aren't in our, you know, typically it was mining and manufacturing, mining, and now they're moving towards more of a, you know, looking at a space strategy and looking at, there's defence hubs being built, and there's really interesting stuff happening. So Making It for Queensland, they had to act fast. And I guess this was my big point on the opportunity piece today, which was this time is a time of where all the balls get thrown up in the air a bit. And I think you should really challenge yourselves in thinking about, do you want all the balls to land back in the same holes? Or do you want to really shift things up a bit in this time of change? So for the department, that has meant they've really had to shift quickly into that digital space a lot stronger than they've ever had to do before. And they weren't, you would have said they weren't ready for that, but they've just had to get ready for it, and they've had to do it, and it's happened. And it's been an amazing opportunity for the digital team to really embrace that appetite for these channels and really move the department forward in a quicker way than, you know, what might have taken 2 years without a pandemic. Some of the changes have happened in 2 weeks, which could have taken so much longer another time. So my angle on the opportunity today is just when things get thrown up in the air, if you go for it, sometimes there's such opportunity there to be had to get out to the public in a different way, but also to shift your internal processes a little bit to respond where you maybe didn't have time or focus before. So, you know, we're getting people to shoot videos on iPhones. Who would have thought the department would let people go out and shoot videos on iPhones and then send them to us and we'd make a video from that? That's crazy talk, yet it's happening. And the officer's going, oh, this is working, this is great. Like, it just wouldn't have been considered 5 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden they're seeing the results of that and having that real evidence presented to them that someone in their factory shooting some content on their iPhone can turn into a good video with the tools we have at our disposal these days. So we're getting to show some really quick proof which is giving us heaps of opportunity. And I think we're going to have a lot more support in the future, you know, after this time. So yeah, it's been exciting.
Can only imagine. And it'd be interesting to hear, I think from your perspective, and also Flo and Emily, you'll have a lot to contribute here. You've obviously had to change the way that you work. So you mentioned processes. Can any of you give some examples to the audience on the line today of what are some of those processes you have changed, and how have you done it so quickly?
Well, I'll start. Look, obviously for us, we're obviously raising funds for hospital support, the RBWH. Obviously, that's one of our key focuses, but also medical research. And we, you know, obviously the writing was on the wall. We were watching the news and knew that something might be brewing, and then we had to, you know, react really quickly when we made the decision, and we had to produce a campaign and develop that really quickly. Admittedly, we had some pro bono partners who helps a lot. We have an amazing advertising agency and media buyer who just said, look, we want to help you. We'll you know, pitch in and help. But in terms of our systems, we had to rethink social media, for instance, quite a lot. Our social media engagements just skyrocketed for obvious reasons, but yeah, we had to think about obviously the messages that we were conveying. And I suppose obviously we're a charity, and there have been some negative messages around the bushfires. For instance, there was, I think if you look at the Red Cross, they raised a huge amount of money, and we are really aware that we have to honour our donors' wishes, and that if they make a donation, 100% of those funds have to go to their project that they want to support. So we've had to be really careful in terms of planning our messages to ensure that we can honour donors' wishes, and that across every channel, and obviously social media, it's amazing. As a charity, you'd think you'd get nothing but positivity, but often we do get quite a lot of negativity. So we've had to just be really clear in terms of a bit of a messaging matrix to ensure that those messages are planned out, and that we know how we're all communicating about things. So that's been one thing that we've done. But and we've used new mediums. We didn't really do a lot with digital advertising before, but we have been using that nationally. We've just produced a TVC and radio, so we're looking at traditional and digital marketing. It's not purely digital. I think there was a question about older target markets, how to reach those. So we're certainly looking at things like direct mail, and we call up our donor. We call donors. You can look at things like letterbox drops, things like that. So traditional is also, you know, obviously it's very important for that older demographic as well.
I guess for obviously a younger demographic like student and prospective student, social media has always been a tool that we leverage a lot. I think in those times it has been a really good tool to inform our students and our different communities about the different situation and change within QUT. I think what a big change of process is to really completely rethink of our content calendar. We usually plan a month before of all the content that we have on our platform. We leave space for reactive pieces of content, but that's pretty much scheduled a few weeks ahead, or at least a week ahead, and plan at least 3 to 4 weeks before. So everything that we change to promote events, now there are online events, but also everything that is usually as per the student calendar, we currently throw everything out of the window. So really adapt and embrace that change was for us to really rethink of how we promote the university, what are the change, and also really making sure that similar than the state government in promoting what our community is already doing. So our researcher, our academics, our students, our alumni, so really leveraging that on social media. My team looks after the corporate social media channels, but work really closely with the faculties and the different other institutes or big teams within QUT to really ensure that the different communities knows about everything we do in that space. I think it has worked really well for us in terms of engagement. Obviously a lot of questions, and now we are thinking in the phase of really planning all the content moving forwards in terms of really answering those frequently asked questions and making sure that people really know what are the next steps for them, not really for us, but for them to either apply, to actually keep going through their normal courses, even that's all online now, but really making sure that they have the latest information, mainly using social media, but also how we can embed that across the different and various communication channels.
And Flo, have you seen a change? Because you already, this is a sort of two-part question. You would have already had a very good following and program for social media, particularly given your demographic and your market that you're dealing with. What change, though, have you noticed in the way you've had to communicate with them or that they're engaging with you? Is it a change in platforms and channels, or is it more a change in the type of information that you're looking to get out?
I think it's a bit of both, but more in the type of messaging or type of content that resonates more. Obviously, in the time where there were some still students on campus, we had to communicate about the change from physical to online study. So that was definitely why usually we wouldn't really use social, but that was definitely something where we needed to, where it actually really resonate with our audience. Primarily on Facebook, that's our kind of really big bulk of our current or prospective students, but also leveraging tools and platforms like Insta Stories. So it was definitely some platforms where we drove a lot of traffic from them. Obviously, we have the chance to have over 10,000 followers, not verified yet, but at least the swipe up is definitely something that we leverage a lot to make sure that people get the info differently on their mobile, obviously, and go get the content as quick as possible. So it worked really well for us. So a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, great. Different sort of question now that had come in earlier this week, and I think is probably relevant for all three of your organisations, and it's around events. Obviously, the events industry has just been really put on hold in its traditional form in this situation, and will be for a while. What are you going to be doing to either replace events or move events to being virtual conferences or seminars?
Well, I can let you know that we're starting. We have obviously for fundraising, a lot of we help a lot of events, and we're involved in a lot of events. We're just about to be involved in a virtual sporting event, which we're really excited to be involved in. And there are 3 charities who are the beneficiaries of that event. So there are really exciting ways to hold virtual events, and this organisation normally run significant sporting events around Australia, so they've had to shift the whole model to online. Look, I can't tell you the technical details behind it because obviously they've worked all of that out for us. But I think obviously they're able to enlist, send out comms to their lists, recruit people, and then they just have to encourage people to do different things at home or around where, obviously we're only able to sort of be around our homes or exercise. So that's been a really innovative way for us as a charity to still be involved in events.
Yeah, great.
For me, Amy, I would say I can't answer that. I don't have enough detail on that at the moment, but I don't think we know the answers yet in terms of a lot of the events that were going to happen, because you can imagine in government, a lot of them would be around big announcements and big investments. So definitely that's conversations I'm starting to have with the managers of each of the units. But I guess something I really need my team to be thinking about is, with everything moving to digital for a while, we can't possibly do everything. So, we can't move all the events online, and we can't do all of the things that were happening in different formats all here. So we're really going to have to work hard at pressure testing with the group in terms of where we're going to put our main focus, because the staff numbers haven't changed in there, but we can tap into people. I think we're going to have to really work on that agile approach of someone who normally, we have events officers, and I know most marketers and events people are usually multi-talented and have many skill sets. So I think it's going to be a bit of again, throwing up in the air and the department's already done a bit of this, of moving people around a bit to respond, because we can't do our BAU roles at the moment. And we're sort of working in a bit of a, let's just see if we can plan out in a bit more detail the next couple of weeks, and then let's review again and plan out. We want to get back to that long-term strategy, but for now we have to, like Flo was saying before, we've got to stay in pretty short timeframes at the moment. Yeah, so we will move things online, but we can't move everything online. So there's going to be a bit of prioritising and probably some hard conversations, but that's okay.
Yep. Did you have any virtual event things that you're going to be doing, Flo, or tools that you've started to use?
We usually don't promote too much event on social media because they don't really work for us. But that being said, obviously, university in general, higher education, July, August is the open day season. Definitely a question that I know some team within QT are working on to see how we can obviously still deliver that type of event. But I think for events, you have to really make sure that the event is really worthwhile attending. I think that's really important, that now the attention span for people, or the care time, if I may say that, is really, really low, because there are a lot of information out there, and it has to be really the perfect event and the best fitting event for you to attend and to spend some time, obviously, on Zoom like today. So I think that's definitely something that I always try to be careful in using social media to promote events and to get bums on seats, because sometimes this is not only the best solution. It needs to be obviously promoted via other channels. But yeah, also really having the time to attend and the care to attend those events online. And that's also difficult with, all of us online, all of the brands trying to have those events online. Where before it was kind of easier to network, face to face with a glass of wine. You can't really do that obviously online, at least not the same aspect and feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we would have all noticed how noisy the online space has become in the last several weeks. So, I mean, we're perpetrating it, we're doing a Zoom webinar. So you really do have to be careful about, like you say, you've got actually a compelling topic. And I was looking at some really good research from Edelman, which is a global PR company that they've done recently, and a couple of other research houses. People want brands to keep communicating. They want brands to keep marketing and doing things, but it has to be relevant at the moment. So if you're going to be looking at doing events, they have to be useful, they have to be helpful, or any kind of marketing that you're doing. So anything that's relevant to your industry, that's perhaps educational or instructional or motivating or helpful in that way, or templates, that might be for information services type companies or professional services. If you're in education, that open days thing is going to be a real thing for schools and universities and TAFEs and things to consider. And I know we've got a few people from schools on the line as well as universities. So we'd be really interested to keep that conversation going on how you're tackling that, because, video comes to mind, and live tours and walkthroughs and things like that. It's difficult to build the relationships in those situations, though, or to get that full 360 experience that you get when you physically walk into a place. So I'm sure that we'll see lots of innovative ways of approaching that come out. We'll pop onto our website. I'll see how I go. I'll get it up today or early next week. A list of different online tools, free and paid for, that might help. And that's anything from running major virtual conferences worldwide to smaller local live stream things. I'm actually just going to pop. I've noticed a couple of questions have come in from our attendees online here. Kelly, we've got one for you. And this is from Noelle, who actually works with us at OTM, and she's currently working in one of the federal government departments. Do you think, from a government perspective, there's likely to be a shift towards investing more in more localised economies, circular economy, farm to table type stuff, having a clearer sense of where your general consumables come from, what might this mean for brands who've historically relied on a lot of export markets? How might they instead really use and amplify their local presence to grow more of a grassroots customer base? That's a big question.
It is a big question, and I'm actually not laughing because of the question. I'm laughing because just a tree just started to be mulched or something. There's like some big piece of machinery that's just started down my road. I hope you can still hear me okay. Noelle, obviously 2 weeks into the job, I can't really answer that. I do, I'm so sorry. Is that really intrusive? Should we? I do think they're going to be really focusing on, yes, to the Queensland made and buy and, you know, use in Queensland. I think that'll definitely be a focus. I think your more grassroots angle, I personally would love to see that. I don't know if that's where they're going to go. I know in our area, it is definitely about creating jobs and creating things that people can do in Queensland. So I think there's heaps of potential in that those grassroots areas, but I wouldn't be able to answer on that end. But I think it's, again, it's sort of, they're probably a lot of those sorts of solutions. I know I'm associated with Food Connect. I order Food Connect boxes and things, and they're experiencing a huge increase in demand. They're experiencing, you know, huge interest at the moment. So I would imagine that they'd be looking to take advantage of that interest of people going, I want to know where my food's coming from and know that it's not got to cross the ocean to get to me. That would be, you know, that would be their opportunity in this space at the moment.
Yeah, and I might jump in there as well. We've been keeping an eye, like I said earlier, on several different insight sources and consumer sentiment type sources. And just in general, the mood in the media. I would say that there is a desire from the population to support local. And local could mean micro-local in your own community. It could mean state, it could mean national. But it's about supporting people in organisations. So there is, I think, going to be more of an opportunity for that for private businesses and for government services where we can support the economy with those. So I'm not sure if that entirely answers your question, Noelle, but it's certainly a big topic, and one that I'm hoping is a change that we will see stick.
And it might mean, from the government perspective, it just might mean those operations might start to attract some more funding. You know, they probably might have a stronger argument for being supported. So, you know, we can all just cross our fingers on that one, I think. And then I'm just being distracted by your couch choir comment as well, Noelle, which is it was a really cool way to do an event.
Yes. One more thing on events before we jump to the next question that we've got. This has actually come in from another attendee. Gil has noted that there has been a huge increase in people running online events who've never done it before. And so, yes, of course, we're seeing varying quality levels of online events. What would be our 3 pieces of advice to first-time conference hosts in running online events or even in-house meetings? Maybe 1 piece of advice each. You can go, Flo. I reckon you've got something.
Yeah. I saw that question. I was already thinking of an answer before. I think keep it simple. Keep it simple in that delivery. I think, you know, we are all looking, you know, perfect here with our background and everything. But then I think that's not what really matter for people now. That's more the information and the content itself rather than actually the delivery. I know that Zoom and the big video service provider in those teleconferences really struggle to keep up with the demand. And I think that's just a way to make it really easy to understand and to action for you. I think that current webinar is definitely a really good example of really keeping it simple but really efficient and valuable for the audience.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that, Emily or Kelly?
Yeah, look, I think I've got a few points. Planning obviously is very, very important. Also, I would test and have a rehearsal before you launch into things. I was hoping to have a better background, but I have this one. And the other thing I was just also going to say, holding the event is one part of it, but often the biggest part of any event is to promote it, and putting a plan into place to actually develop up a marketing plan for your event, to identify the channels that you're going to promote it on, to identify, have you got anyone that you can email, social media channels, what's your messaging going to be, how often are you going to promote it, how much lead time do you need to promote it. Often events, you need a lot of lead time to promote. I mean, it's easier nowadays, obviously, with social media, but if you want a certain number of people to attend, the promotion is often the hardest part of holding an event.
That's a really good point. And it's very easy to overlook that these days when you've got all these tools that make it super easy to set up. And then you sit there and you've got, 2 people that have joined your event. So that's important.
Yeah. And I would add to that, think about, and this is actually from pre-COVID experience, but I've run some webinars before where we weren't, I think you have to be really clear about, like what we're doing now, where we're sort of answering questions as we go. Amy's prepared for that. She knew she was going to be doing that, and we knew that was happening, because answering questions during this time can be great and interactive, and it can be distracting. And depending on your topic, how complicated is your topic? Do you actually need a team of 5 people beside you who can give you the right information? In my old worlds where it was software and it was some pretty complicated topics around medical health and things, we needed to make sure we had the right people in the room with the person who was chairing to be able to get those answers, because people wanted the answers on the spot. So I think I would just have a think about how interactive, are you committed to actually being able to answer the questions at the time? Because otherwise it's okay to say, we probably won't have all the answers today, but we're going to collect your questions and we're going to put them all together, respond to them, and send you an email afterwards or something like that. So like Emily's saying, that's part of that prep piece, like really be clear on what you are doing in the space. This is quite casual, so it's nice to be answering some questions on the fly and stuff. And but yeah, if yours is a bit more of a sensitive topic or something, I'd recommend you really know you've got your people behind you ready to answer any curlies.
Yeah, great. I'm going to flip to another set of questions we've had come through. One of them is around personal brand. So this is coming from someone who's got their own brand working as a coach, but I think the question actually applies to any brand at the moment. And the question is around, if my brand is one that is upbeat and full of vitality and always giving positive, happy, feel good vibe messages, what is the right way to be communicating at the moment? Should I still be communicating? Should I be waiting? And I know when I saw that question come in for myself and for our organisation and some other clients, we've had the same thought process, is now the right time to be marketing? From our perspective, we think you should continue to communicate and engage, but you have to be very sensitive about what it is that you're saying and what's your message. But I'm interested if any of you have a different view on that, or whether you think people should still be doing the really upbeat, high energy type marketing at the moment.
Quickly, I think, yes, you need to keep up with that, because the best thing that the world needs now is some positivity and some really big messages about everything. So I would say yes. I think always to be conscious of the context, of the timing of everything you do, and that's similar of what you do on social media or elsewhere. You're not going to tweet about something that might be actually completely irrelevant in the context, and especially if something happens. So I think that's not really taking opportunity of COVID-19. I think the major social platforms like Facebook, Twitter actually stopped some people to place ads using that specific words. I think that makes sense. But I think you can still find your voice in that crazy world out there, that really noisy world. But as long as that's really positive and that stick to your brand, I think still be yourself in the different communication you do. I think that's your brand. Your brand, if we take Nike as a brand, I think Nike is, as a brand, has lived a lot of crises, external and internal, and still stick to itself and to its value and to its different messages, and really stand up for the right values, or the values that they stand up. So I think that's same for personal brand or any other brand, to really making sure that you have something, you care for something, just keep doing it and keep really pushing that message, and obviously being always conscious of your environment and the specific context.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. And I would just add, it's okay to be quiet as well. I think you have to, you know, I'm sure all of you have seen a lot of people, you know, high profile people, particularly in LinkedIn, giving a lot of crap to brands who are contacting customers they haven't spoken to for 2 years or 3 years. Or, you know, if you're upbeat and positive, that's your brand, and you talk regularly to this list of 100 people, then you should keep talking regularly to that list. Exactly what Flo's saying, but this isn't the time to go and target that list that you haven't talked to for 2 years, I think, you know. So I think it's about making sure you're staying in your relevant space. And yeah, there's just so much being offered that unless you do have a reason, like, and really challenge yourself on, am I value adding or am I just making noise? Because I think people will remember what you said if you said one thing in 3 weeks rather than saying 30 things in 1 week. So that would just be what I'm trying to think about, because I think we in the department at the moment, we've been saying a lot, like so much has been pumping out of there, and that's great. Like, it was great because it meant a lot of activity was happening, but now I want to calm us down a little bit more and go, okay guys, where's our value now? Like, in this, it was all a panic. Now the panic is settling and we're looking towards recovery. Where are we going to add value? And I think, like Amy said, you know, I'm looking to research, I'm looking to pieces where I can find out what people need. And Amy actually sent me that Edelman research had an interesting observation for me about the percentage of people that will trust government when it's linked with business. So government alone isn't trusted as a reliable source of information, but government alongside business, it becomes 48% or something like that. So I'm trying to get some reasons of why we're doing it this way behind. So I'm starting to go and deep dive and read, and there's some research I can access and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's better to be quiet if you don't have a reason for the comms.
Yeah, two good perspectives there. Emily, I'd like to turn to you for a moment. You're in the fundraising world and community organisation and charity world. Your charity is incredibly relevant right now. There are a lot of community organisations and not-for-profits who would really be feeling it right now, though, because fundraising is their biggest source of income. And it may not seem like the right time to be fundraising. Do you have any advice or suggestions for organisations like that?
Yeah, look, and we're feeling a little bit of pain too. We've had, generally we try and cover our administrative costs through investments and some other ways, but even those are you know, obviously economically, there's been a huge downturn, so we're feeling some pain as well. So I realise it's very difficult. I would say that you should continue to fundraise. I mean, it's but be very careful about, I suppose, make it relevant. You have to somehow make it relevant, and the reality is that there are so many different parts of society that are doing it tough, and so I think there would be a number of charities that could, you know, there'd still be a lot of relevance in terms of the impacts of COVID-19. So I would say, you know, try to keep fundraising. And also, I'd also say I did work in advertising many years ago and went through a recession, and which was a different crisis. But they did research after it, and the brands that did continue to advertise and promote themselves came out of it a lot better off financially, although people were arguing at the time that they shouldn't be spending any money on advertising or marketing. The brands and businesses that continue to market themselves, even though there was a high risk in terms of investing money in such a difficult time, it still produced dividends in the long run. So keeping that brand awareness up is very important. I also agree you have to be careful and not just make noise. It has to be relevant. But yeah, that's sort of my perspective.
Yeah, great. And while you've got the microphone, we were very impressed with some of the things. We all had we did our planning and we did our preparation and had a little conversation yesterday. Emily, are you able to share with us some of the success from the current Coronavirus Action Fund campaign that you've been running?
Yeah. No, well, look, we started off with a goal of $750,000 to support 3 hospitals for some clinical drug trials. We're now over $3 million. And we've also got some significant pledges. Obviously, we're still working through those, but I would say that we're probably, if the pledges are all come to fruition, it will be around $10 million. So we're hoping that they will come through. But and the thing is, we raised all this money, but we've also got lots of researchers knocking on our door saying, look, I've got cancer care who want to do another trial in their department. We've got I've got another researcher who contacted me today wanting to do another drug trial for COVID-19. So there's no shortage of projects out there to support. And but yeah, we're really excited that we've been able to get the clinical drug trials started, which is great. And we haven't announced it yet, but they are actually starting to enroll patients. Of course, social distancing has probably made our participation a little bit more difficult in terms of getting the numbers that we need. But look, I think sadly we've probably got a long way to go with COVID-19. I don't think this is going to be a short race. I think it's going to be a marathon. And yeah, look, we might have a second wave of which I hope we don't. But yeah, so that in terms of the trials, they're probably a long project. But yeah, it's great. It's in that regard. It's in terms of being the support from the community has been great. And we, I spoke to someone yesterday who's got nothing to do with medical research, and he said to me, "Oh, I hope your team are doing a good job. I hope they're, I hope these projects are going to help, are going to start and produce results, because everyone around the world is hoping, obviously, for treatments to be developed and also for vaccines." So yeah, it's been exciting to be involved in such an important project.
No pressure.
No pressure.
That's great stuff, and thank you for sharing that with us. I'm conscious we've probably got about 10 minutes left in this time slot for this call. Is there anything that I haven't asked you as panelists that you would really like to share with our attendees that you think might be useful at this time?
I had missed one of my points, Amy. I was just like, oh yeah, I wanted to say that. And I thought actually what you're doing here is a really great example of what I've been thinking about, which is that I'm reading some really great stuff. I'm being a bit overwhelmed, but someone was talking about emotional aftertaste of your brand on LinkedIn yesterday, which I thought was quite an interesting term, but I would think of it as brand equity. That now's an opportunity, I think, exactly what your team's doing, Amy, in terms of offering these and really just going, hey, I'm just going to reach out and offer some valuable assistance where we can if you need it. You would imagine that would build some really nice brand equity, some credits in the bank in terms of future work. And that might not come into fruition until July next year because things are tight. But, I think it is an opportunity when things aren't really hot for a lot of people to really look for how you could just build up some really good, where you could offer and care, because that'll build up your trust. That'll build, we're talking about positivity before, offering positivity, showing that you're someone that people can trust, and then, looking for ways that you can be helping is a really powerful demonstration that you're a quality person for people to have in their network. And, so often so much of our work comes from someone saying, hey, that person's a good person, or I love what that person was doing. And, particularly Brisbane, we've always lived off that. So I would say look for those opportunities where you can do relevant things that should build up a bit of credit in the bank.
Yeah, great point.
One I would like to mention is not really about the brand or the organization. It's more about you as a person in that craziness. I think that's really important to keep healthy. Obviously, yes, I'm talking about physical health, but also especially mental health. I'm definitely someone that sometimes really struggle with that overload of communication, overwhelming context. When you see on social, I'm on social from basically 6 in the morning to 10 at night. And that's not always great, positive content. So I think that's really important that you keep your brain healthy. your mind healthy and to take some time for you to, I don't know, meditate if you want, go for a walk and think about, that everything at the end of the tunnel will be fine eventually for, 99% of the people. So really think of still being positive and keeping, really healthy in your mind and always trying to be grateful of all the work you do at your own level does help someone out there. That might be 5 people, that might be 20 millions of people. I think that's what you do always helps someone, and I think that's something that you need to be grateful of and to really keep in mind when you do when you do go to work, you don't go to work, you go to your home office, which is next to your kitchen, next to the snack, but thinking really in that positive mind. Yes.
That's a really, really great insight, and one that no matter what type of role we're working in is so important. And if all that anyone takes away from this call today is a little bit of a G up and some positive mindset, well, that's a win in my book as well. So great point there, Flo. I missed a question. We've actually got several questions. I'm not going to get through them all in the next few minutes, but one that we've been asked a lot is, how do I get cut through at the moment? We do still want to keep marketing, we do still want to keep communicating, but how do I get cut through? Everyone's talking about do more digital marketing, create more content, keep the information out there, but anything different that you would offer up to our attendees on how to get cut through at the moment?
Emily, you were about to say, you go.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I suppose, but just being creative, that's probably my biggest tip. I mean, often in advertising, they talk about having an idea. So an idea behind a campaign, and that idea takes the campaign forward. So I would just say being creative and obviously being relevant, and also linking into people's emotions, whether that's through humor, whether that's through, obviously there are all sorts of emotions going on at the moment, but linking into emotions is incredibly important.
Great.
I love that, Emily, and I feel so passionate about the creativity piece too. And I think, and marrying that back up to what Flo just said, give yourself the headspace. Like, I think if your work is a bit quieter at the moment, I know as marketers, like, it's a curse of how busy we always are. And if you are a bit quieter, this is your moment to step back, spend a day in the grass and let the creative juices flow, or really return back to your strategy. If you had a strategy you created 2 years ago and you haven't had a chance to look at it since, this is your moment to sort of go, what did that research tell me that we paid all this money to do and then we never actually did anything with it because we were too busy and we forgot to actually deep dive on it? Because that's where your cut through answers will be, because that will help you answer, what do I actually solve for my target markets? What's my value add? What am I offering again? Kind of returning back to your base, but then giving yourself some space to let the creative, you can imagine me starting a new job. I've just onboarded remotely and I'm so frustrated with not being able to sit in a room with people and whiteboard some ideas and do some things. And I must say, I haven't come to an amazing solution about it yet, but I'm trying to think of ways we can shoot ideas around where we're not, just people don't brainstorm well, I don't think, on a computer together. So I think we're going to have to do some things where we break away and brainstorm by ourselves maybe, and then bring it back. Or I'm in the process of trying to think about that at the moment. So for the cut through, I'd say maybe almost stop for a little bit and pull yourself away from trying to deal with the big panic, because the answers always lie in research, in returning to strategy, in returning to your, the human-centered design of going, who is the person I'm talking to and what are they currently experiencing that I can help? I just saw Miro. I love Miro too. It's people I don't know and I'm working with them for the first time, Neethi. So it's, actually, you're probably right. Miro is probably going to be a good one for that now that we're connecting a bit more. So, there's so many tools and you get overwhelmed sometimes, but, it is freeing up your brain to come up with some of those ideas is the challenge.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You don't necessarily have to be getting it all right at the moment. Take that little bit of time to reflect. And I couldn't help it, you said to get into the grass. I'm hoping you meant go and sit on the lawn and not, get into the funny weed for your creativity.
Look, interpret as you will. No, I was imagining like lying out on grass.
Oh, that's excellent. I think we're going to wrap it up here. I'm not seeing any more questions coming in from the attendees. I would like to say a heartfelt thanks to the three of you for joining us in the call today. I really appreciate you giving us the time for that. And for those of you who have joined us online, thank you as well for joining us and for participating with your questions today and beforehand. The service that we've set up, it's pretty easy to access. It's all free. We're doing it on a volunteer basis when we've got time to answer questions. If you think of some questions that you didn't get a chance to submit today, just email us, helpline@theotmcompany.com. If you didn't get that down, jump on our website. There's a link on the homepage. You can submit a question that way. If you know any of us in the team, just send us a question. We don't really care how the question comes to us. We don't have pixels attached to it or any kind of tracking. We're not trying to build up a major database or anything here. We're just looking to help all of us with information to get through this time. And that's probably it from me. So everybody have a great rest of their Friday, and stay tuned. We'll work out who's going to come and join us in the conversation next week.